がここにいるうちの本物のスクールスポーツのために行こうぜベイビーバン手の服には気をつけて、現実になることがありますからね。
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and continue the long-standing tradition of covering Japanese boxing here on True School Sports. True School Sports, the #1 source for Japanese boxing in America. Now, I wanted to come and give some thoughts on the Tenshin Nasukawa Guevara Estrada card that happened. I didn't get a chance to really get out to put my thoughts out there and document it, so I'm gonna do that now. Better late than never. Not surprised. I'm not like overly surprised that the fight played out how it did. Tenshin Nasukawa wound up stopping Guevara Estrada, and Guevara Estrada looked like an absolute shell of himself, and that was to be expected because I've been saying this for many years. I was saying it back then when Bam fought him. I thought he was shot when he fought Bam Rodriguez. He had no legs from the first round when he fought Bam Rodriguez, and a lot of people that are high on Bam Rodriguez felt like I was hating on Bam, and no, he was shot when he fought Bam, and he looked even more shot when he fought Tenshin. And it's really sad because when you talk about the best Mexican fighters of the last decade, he's one of the best ones out of all of them, and he gave the boxing game so many great fights. So it wasn't enjoyable to see him go out like that. On the other side, when you look at Tenshin Nasukawa, he was a guy that took a very tough loss in what I would say, in my opinion, I thought in 2025 that Tenshin versus Takuma Inoue was probably the biggest fight in Japanese boxing. There was no fight in Japan that had the Japanese boxing community on fire like that fight, and Tenshin has a magnetic pull when it comes to the boxing fans of Japan. He's a big name, right? He's got a very vibrant personality, so he's got a way of promoting fights that in a way that very few fighters can. So on the flip side, coming off of a tough loss like that, I'm sure it affected him. He was fighting a big name here, although it was a guy that was past his best, and he went in there and he did a great job. He did a great job, and good for him. It puts him back on track to potentially being in a big fight because Guy was number one in the WBC. He was number 2. So I would presume and assume that this is going to elevate him to the number 1 position and put him in a spot where he could potentially fight, the winner of Takuma Inoue versus Kazuto Ioka. And those are both massive fights in Japan. Obviously, Takuma Inoue, if he's able to beat Kazuto Ioka, that makes him bigger. That adds to the legend of him and grows his profile and his career. But him and Tenshin in a rematch would be nothing short of a blockbuster fight because, Tenshin did good early on. The fight just came down to, I feel, experience and adjustments, and Tenshin didn't have the experience to make the adjustments that he needed to make to beat a guy like Takuma. Now, who knows if that would happen in a rematch, but either way, it is a massive fight. Now, if Ioka beats Takuma in a way, well, that would put Ioka in rarefied air because Ioka would become one of the less than 10 fighters in the history of boxing to become a 5-division champion, and then he could fight Tenshin, and that's a massive fight. So you're talking about potentially, 2 blockbuster fights that Tenshin has put himself in the running for with the win. But it was very sad to see Guevara Estrada go out like that because Guevara Estrada, I remember a long time ago when I thought he was a fringe top 5 pound fighter many years ago. He had that kind of resume, beating guys like Chocolatito, Guevara Estrada, being in Fight of the Year candidates, showing himself to be a master counterpuncher through many different parts of his career. So I think for Guile, I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. I didn't tell Guevara Estrada when to start boxing, so who am I to tell a man when he should stop? But I really feel like that should be the end of the road. I think after the Roman Gonzalez rematch, I feel like he lost his hunger for boxing. He made good money. He just didn't have that same urgency he once had in his career after that fight. That's what I've noticed in his career. So I feel like this has probably been long overdue. But, boxing has a way of retiring you if you don't retire from it. So I'll leave it at that. And then as far as the rest of the card, I mean, you had Tomoya Tsuboi, who fought Pedro Guevara. The fight ended in like 2 rounds because of a head clash, so it was unfortunate, and it's part of the fight game. Sometimes you go in there, you train really hard, and these things do happen. So I would assume that he's gonna have to probably rematch Pedro Guevara and see how he does because Guevara is a guy that's been champion, that's been in there with guys like Bam Rodriguez, who Tomoya Tsuboi said he wants to fight. So probably do that rematch, and then if you can get past him, then probably do the world title fight after that. But I was disappointed that he wasn't able to go around and really show his skills because I'm really high on Tomoya Tsuboi. I think Tomoya Tsuboi is one of the most skilled fighters in all of boxing below the featherweight division. And I think he's up. I think he's very much up there in the skills department. He just needs the fights and the experience to get him to that level. So wasn't happy about that. You also had my main man Katsuma Akitsugi, who's had a very interesting career because Katsuma Akitsugi, he turned pro in America. He wasn't part of the Japanese boxing system, so to speak. Did his first, 14 fights here in America. Taking fights on short notice, little money, fighting on pro box, fighting bigger guys, never really having real training camps. And he winds up finally winning so much and looking so good that he gets the attention of Mr. Honda and Tekken Promotions. And they bring him to Japan. And he fights the Mexican Jose Miguel Cervantes. Tall, rangy guy. He has like a 73-inch reach, 8-inch reach advantage on Katsuma. It was one of those close fights that could have went either way. They gave it to Cervantes. Akitsugi suffers the first loss of his career, so it's really unfortunate. A lot of boxing fans feel like that Japanese fighters don't get a fair shake in Japan, and this fight could possibly add to that narrative that when a Japanese fighter is in a close fight and it's on Japanese soil, the foreigner will get it. It's happened many times, and a lot of people are frustrated with that aspect of Japanese boxing. So really unfortunate stuff there for Katsuma Akitsugi, but it's part of the game, and I think it'll push him to get better. And if nothing else, I hope that this will at least allow him to grow his stock in Japan and fight in Japan where the big money is, and really make a career for himself. Because I know Katsuma, and I know some of the struggles he's been through, and I would like to see him get what he can out of the fight game, because it's a tough game, and it's a short shelf life. So there's still plenty of great fights out there for him. I mean, domestically, you got guys like Tenshin and Takuma and Ioka and Yoshiki Takei and Riku Masuda, and that's just domestically in Japan. That's not even factoring in other guys like David Cuellar or Kenneth Lilbert, people like that. So he's gonna be in the mix. Katsuma Akitsugi isn't going anywhere. He's still a damn good fighter. A loss doesn't define you, especially if it's a close loss. And yeah, that's my take on the card, guys. That's my take on the card. Just a lot of probably one of the more disappointing cards from Japan in a while, just when you consider some of the results, and then the main event not really being that competitive, and seeing a truly great fighter like Guy was trying to look like a shell of himself. You hate seeing that. So I'll leave it at that. What do you guys think? What did you guys make of all the happenings in Japan last weekend? Leave your comments down below. Make sure you guys take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you could love me or you could hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys. Want to say hello? Say hello. Can you say hi, boxing world?
Hi, boxing world.
Can you say true school sports?
Truth? Oh.
Can you say true school sports? Say true school sports. Can you say the untouchable? Can you say the home of boxing? The home of boxing.